Blessings to you this evening. I have Jessica A. Robinson, a master wedding planner and lead designer at J. Robinson Signature Event. Before I bring her on, I'm going to ask you to please like, share, tag, comment, and subscribe. How are you, Jessica, my dear niece?
I am doing well, Auntie. How are you?
I am doing well. I am doing well. It's great to have you on the show.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Most definitely. Most definitely. Tell us about how you became a business owner.
Well, it goes back over 25 years now.
Wow.
Actually, almost 26 years.
Wow.
So, at the early age of 15, I took a strong liking to events and design, and it was more so because my mom, of course, your sister, was
Right.
that was a part of what she did for our church. When we moved here to the area that we live in here in the DC area, one of the things that we did was work for the church catering company, work with them to do events. So we were doing
Wow.
weddings and church functions and things like that. And she later, got a job at one of the rental companies. And so in the summertime, I lived to go to the rental company and play in the showroom with,
Wow.
with the linens and the china and, and kind of put things together and patterns and looks and things like that. So that's where it started. My first major event was actually my high school graduation dinner, where I was planning for 150 people. So I planned out what it was going to look like, what we needed to get, what the menu was going to look like, everything down to the budget, determining how much we were going to spend. And so that was my first major event. So I liked it. And I kind of dabbled in it for a little bit, and I had friends and family that would call and say, "Hey, we know you cook too. We heard you cook. Why don't you come do this dinner party?" And so a friend of ours invited us. She had a little dinner party for her girlfriends and invited me to both cook and design and do everything.
Wow.
So I did that, and it just turned into a business. So in 2002, I formed what was then Elegant Events. And I started getting into event planning. I did not want to do weddings. I didn't want to touch weddings at first. I thought brides were a little crazy, and I just didn't want that. But later in 2005, I got into doing weddings, and my career kind of took off from there. And then last year, I launched a second business as well, which is J. Robinson Enterprises, which I help business owners with branding, websites, logo, and to help them be successful in their business.
Right. So what is one of the most common mistakes business owners make?
Well, I would say being a business owner is twofold. It's part of it is your craft, meaning what it is that you do. And the other part of it is the business side, and that's how you do it. And most people focus on the craft. They may say, okay, well, I'm good at I love doing hair, and family and friends always ask me to do their hair.
Right.
So I'm going to go open up a hair salon. But the thing is, you can be good at the craft, but bad at business. And so a lot of business owners, especially businesses, especially in our community, they aren't as successful because they don't put the focus into being good at business. If you, again, I think most of us, at least especially in the Black community, we can, as women, can talk about how we've sat in the hairdresser all day long. We might have a 9 a.m. appointment, but we got, she double, triple booked. And, when we come out, the sun is almost about to go down. But that's part of not only being good at one part of it, you got to learn how to schedule and how to create back-end systems that make your operation work good for you in terms of tax preparation, because you don't want to get in that kind of trouble. But just, like I said, I think a lot of people focus more on the craft, and they don't equally put as much time and attention into being good at business and learn the business side of it. Absolutely.
Right. That's so true. That's so true. Is there a particular personality trait skills and education that an event planner need?
Absolutely. I actually just got off of a call. I've been on a couple of calls today with just talking about things that are going on in the industry. People don't realize that weddings are like a $400 billion industry.
Wow.
And so it is not the days of, maybe in the 90s where, you had a wedding, you spent 10,000 and you thought you were doing something and, you had some cookies and some punches, some cake and it was good. No, weddings are a large industry. And so I always tell people, I just had a call with one of my students. I used to teach at one of the community colleges. I taught the wedding planning curriculum and built it myself. And I had a call with one of my students that I taught a couple of years ago. And one of the things that we talked about was I can teach you the foundational principles of what to do, but I can't teach you how to be a good planner. You either have it or you don't. This is one of those things where you either have it or you don't. Because again, you have to be organized. You have to be able to pay attention to detail. You have to. So again, if you already have those things, then the continuing education that you get in this industry kind of just builds and expands on that. But you gotta have the meat of it first. It really is something that's at the core of you. It can't really be taught. You can't put your finger on it. And because again, a wedding planning business is all about how not only you sell yourself, but how well you are at executing. So again, part of that is just who you are. If you're into design and you pay attention to those details, but again, the business side of it is what's going to make you successful in the long term.
Long run. Right.
And that's any business, again, you have to have the passion for it first.
You do.
And allow that to develop. And it's knowing what your gift is. You have to know your lane and stay in.
Exactly. Exactly. That is so true. And most times people don't know their lane.
No.
Most times they don't know their lane.
Know what their gift is. They don't know what their passion is. And again, if you're operating in that gift, then again, your possibilities are endless. But you got to know where you're starting from first and where the starting line is.
Right. Event planning has been named the 5th most stressful job in the world. What has been one of your most stressful experience during the event planning process?
Let's see. It was almost 19 years in business. I can run off. I've had a groom pass out at the altar saying his vows. Wow. Luckily, my DJ, who has been with me for 12 years now, is also a police officer's volunteer firefighter certified EMT. So he was able to kind of step in. Wow. I've had 2 people pass out at 2 different weddings in one weekend, one on a Saturday, wow, one on a Sunday. But most recently, I would say operating an event after COVID. Weddings, wow, are social. You go to mingle and to touch and to dance, and you go to the bar and you do all of the social things that people do at a wedding, and to take those elements away or try to figure out how to navigate through them with keeping people distant, with keeping people sanitized, with trying to make sure that normal things like passing a mic for the speeches, trying to avoid that, and it's a lot. Wow. I just did a wedding the night before Thanksgiving. I kind of pretty much had avoided most of my weddings got switched, or events that I had, they either got changed or they went virtually. So again, I've done a virtual baby shower that had all and whistles. But the thing is, trying to plan a wedding post-COVID can be a little challenge, because again, you're taking the element of what's normally there, and removing that, and still trying to give a client their dream wedding. Luckily, my client was well pleased, and they just gave me a video that I posted the other day. But again, that can be extremely challenging when you take the main focus out of a social event.
Right. And with doing that, was it a limit of people that could come?
Yes. So
or it was big enough?
Right. So initially, with events here in DC, Maryland, Virginia, and again, I'm in an area where I'm dealing with 3 states and a slew of jurisdictions and counties.
Wow.
And so each county is different. While I'm right outside of DC and Maryland, again, DC's restrictions are completely different from Maryland, and Maryland is completely different from Virginia. So trying to keep up with those things. We planned this wedding in 2 months. I literally had my first conversation with them 2 months before the wedding day, and I had to find a venue and all the other things, decor, stationery. And so initially we were planning for 50 people. And about 5 days before the event, the governor enforced a new restriction on the state of Maryland that changed it. And of course, when he enforces a newer restriction, then the counties go in and do their own restriction. Wow. And so I had to deal with that. So literally 5 days before the wedding, we cut our guest count by 20 people. And so I kept the same number of tables because normally I would have 10 people to a table. And I had already dropped it down to 6 people to a table. But considering COVID, when we changed the count, I dropped it down to keep the same number of tables, but made it 4. So there were only 4 people to a 6-foot round table, which is a fairly large table. Right. Still trying to keep all of the elements there. So yes, it is extremely hard, especially when families haven't seen each other all of COVID.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
They want to do all the normal things. And then just also trying to give the couple some type of normalcy with that. Right. All of their pictures, they don't have on a mask, or their bridal party doesn't have on a mask, or, the officiants and guests, and trying to keep the chairs apart during the ceremony. Wow. Protecting the vendors, my photographer, my videographer, my DJ, because these are people who work with me on a regular basis. And so I have to protect them as well as my staff.
Right.
Make sure that, because some people don't want to follow the rules,
Right. Right.
And so
and some of them don't.
Some of them don't. And so trying to police adults,
right,
it's a hard thing. Luckily there's no alcohol, because that would have been another story.
Oh, it would have been a whole different story. You're right.
Story. But I have friends in the industry who are in states where, there are no restrictions. So I have friends who in Texas, it's wide open season, or, South Carolina, where there, may not be as many restrictions. So they're still having 100, 200 people weddings.
Wow.
Because they're in ballrooms that normally could seat 1,200.
Right.
So although they
still spaced out, right?
Yes, but it's still 200 people in a space, or
in a space.
So again, some jurisdictions, it's limited to a flat rate of people, or it's by the square footage of the room. So it really just depends, and that's why it's so challenging, because again, you have to deal with the changes daily from county to county, state to state.
Wow. Wow, that is challenging, very challenging. Are there any event type you find particularly interesting or exciting to plan?
A bulk of my business is weddings. I do social events, some birthday parties, or some other type of maybe corporate social aspect of a conference, something like that. But a bulk of my business since 2005 has been weddings. So for 15 years, I've been, that's a bulk of my business line. And so I like it because when I go to do the reveal and seeing the client's face so happy, or when they get ready to move, I get ready to, send them to their suite, or send them, off in the car, when I know that they are so pleased and it's the day that they dreamed of and they didn't expect, it's rewarding for me. So I definitely love that aspect of it. But again, my party clients are just as much so, because again, they spend just as much on a wedding. I've had a mother spend just as much on a baby shower as a person on a wedding. So yes, absolutely. So it really just depends. For me, every event is the same. It has the same elements. It's just a level of how amped up it is.
Right. Oh wow. What do you say what do you see your strength? Where is your strength?
My strength is in coaching, and that's something that I have kind of geared to in the last, I would say, 8 years or so
Okay.
is coaching, because I have through the years acquired many designations. I hold a designation as a master wedding planner. There are only 57 in the entire world. And so
Wow.
that is something that I'm proud of. And again, from many experiences of teaching weddings, like, again, teaching wedding planning here at the community college. I'm also a member of the Association of Bridal Consultants and the newly formed National Society of Black Wedding and Event Professionals as a founding member. And so in my many years of experience, I typically often find myself giving back. And so teaching other planners, other wedding professionals, event professionals. But again, last year, launching my second business, I got so many calls or asks or DMs about, hey, I'm not in the event industry, but I know you know what you're talking about. Can you help me? And so that kind of branched me into my second business, which is helping all businesses of all industries with branding and logos. Because again, I've been in it long enough that I, have an eye for those types of things and kind of coach them. This is what you need to do to grow your business.
Right. And that's good to have, to be able to coach someone, because it's not easy.
It's not
because
easy.
You deal with different attitude, you deal with different, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and not only that, but like I said, again, people focus on the craft and they don't focus on the business. So the thing with that is a lot of times businesses make mistakes, and for some businesses, those mistakes can be critical. Like for event planning, if I come and look at your page or your website, ideally in a normal world, it takes a bride 7 to 10 times to see my information before she considers me. Which means that every time she sees me, it has to be a level in which it attracts her to want to work with me. And so I always tell clients, whether it's planning and events or any other industry, market your business to attract the type of client that you want and not the type of client who you can afford right now. Because again, if I only see something that's kind of subpar, I'm most likely probably not going to return to your website. I'm not going to your Instagram page. I'm not going to come to your Facebook. I'm not going to revisit those things. So you got a one-time shot to make that lasting impression. Yes. And so that's why your brand and your image and how it's projected has to be spot on and on point. And that doesn't mean you won't always be changing. I can look at my original logo and be like, good Lord. But again, that's where you evolve. But if you can eliminate some of those mistakes in the beginning, it will save you so much time, and you can kind of accelerate a little further in your business quicker. And because you've taken the steps to actually invest in yourself to get a good return on your investment.
Right. And I do know this for certain, is that, say for instance, like when I do my play, you came up for my play.
I did.
And when I advertised it on the radio, they told me that it takes a person 5 times to see the commercial before they would even take an interest in it.
It does. And even in advertising, especially in the wedding industry, it's really hard because remember, unlike a realtor or a hairdresser or a salon owner, you could have that one client who's a repeat customer. For me, luckily, I've been blessed to have clients who refer me because they love the job that I do.
Right.
But on average, the average planner gets a bride, she works with her for a year, and then it's gone. The relationship is essentially over. So it's not like you get repeat business from that client.
Right.
You have to reprove yourself to a whole new group of people every engagement season. So in October through Valentine's Day, you have to hustle hard to try to, again, push your stuff, because as soon as she gets engaged, the first thing she's doing is going on websites and everything else. But more likely than not, those brides have already seeked out the people that they want before they got engaged.
Right. Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, it can be a lot. And then the thing is, you have to advertise in year-long increments. So although engagement season is that 5 months, you're advertising all year round. So you still have to pay for those advertising dollars, even in the months where you're not getting business.
Wow.
So it can be costly in that industry, but in any business, again, if you're working in a service industry where you can retain long-term relationships with a client, then, you know, that's why it's in your best interest to really invest in the business to begin with, and making sure that it looks the way you want and your policies and everything are in place and they're aligned, because again, your whole thing is to not only get the client, but you want to maintain in that relationship and retain them as a long-term client. And so a lot of people don't focus on that. They just want to get the job done and they don't think about the long-term effect.
Right, right. And that's what any kind of business is very, very important, to have a relationship with them, have that bond, because like you said, they'll tell their friends, they'll tell 2 people, and they'll tell 2 people, and that's how your business continue to grow. And they say that mouth is the best advertisement.
Absolutely. I had a client, prime example, I had a bride that I booked in 2010. Mm-hmm. I handled her best friend's wedding. One of her best friend's cousins was a hostess at her wedding. I later got her wedding. At that wedding, the hostess's wedding, one of her groomsmen said, "Look, I'm getting married in 2 months."
Wow.
I haven't done any of my fiance is stressed out. We literally had a baby a week ago and she's going nuts. I need you to meet with me ASAP. So from that one client, and I got the hostess's husband after they were married, his birthday party, she came back. So I have 5 events that stem from one wedding.
Wow.
So again, referrals are a huge thing. And that same bride, she advocates me. I have gotten text messages from her saying, "Jessica, I'm at a bar and this girl is getting engaged. She's and I just gave her your information. I already showed her the ropes," because my brides know I educate them through the process on the things that we do. I don't just tell them what we're going to do or tell them how to spend their money. That's what I do. But I actually educate them through the process. So they essentially educate my next group of clients for me.
Right. That's good. That's smart. That's smart. And it takes a lot from you to satisfy, because I know how it is when they getting married and they want this and they want that, and they, you know, so that's good. You definitely have your stuff together.
Absolutely.
Sure, you have your stuff together. What advice would you recommend to someone starting a business?
4 things. There are 4 things. I live by these 4 things. And again, there are other things, but these are the main 4. Number 1, I would advise to do it the right way.
Right.
A lot of people, you know, they kind of do stuff under the table, and no, form a legal entity. And for some people, that may be a sole proprietor. But for other people, it may be a limited liability corporation, which most people are familiar with, an LLC. It limits the liability and the risk to you as a person, meaning your personal assets aren't a part of the conversation should a client try to sue you for anything. Right. So it could be any form of S Corp, C Corp. So there are all these different forms of entities that one can use. But again, do it the right way, and educate yourself. Again, don't just do hair at home. Just don't be a mechanic at home. Actually go get the education to back what it is that you're doing. Again, a lot of my clients I've gotten because they see the designation of a master wedding planner. I have set myself apart. And I've shown that I have demonstrated the education needed in order to hold that designation. Number 2, don't be afraid to seek help. Whether that's, working with other vendors. I have for my old barber as well as my lawn care guy, we have bartered services. For things. So maybe you don't have the finances to pay for certain services, but don't be afraid to maybe barter those services, but part of that comes from networking. You actually have to talk out. Go find people who are doing what you're doing or who are working in the industry. Don't be intimidated. Don't think that we're your competition. It's not a competition. There is enough air in the sky for us all. Okay? So
for all of us.
For us all, make sure that you're networking with people who can help you build your brand. Find someone that's at the level that you are and push each other as accountability partners to move to the next level. That way, when you elevate, you all elevate together. Okay. Number 3, be prepared to, kind of shift some things, both mentally and physically. Being a business owner takes a lot of work. And it takes a lot of nights. I can't tell you the number of times that my laptop, I've fallen asleep typing or anything like that. And so you want to make sure that you're creating a space where you have a good work-life balance. It's a lot of work, but prepare your family, prepare your children, your spouse, or anyone that, that's in your life to say, hey, this may take away from this time, but I'm going to create that balance. So make sure that you just prepare yourself for what's going to be involved. You can't always hang out when you want to. And number 4, build for long-term success, meaning you want to build for the future of your business and not where it is currently. So think about, when you think about even naming your business, think about something that's not going to pigeonhole you where, again, I keep using the hair salon analogy, but don't just make it where it's, your name hair braiding. Because what if you expand? What if you're doing products and you're teaching? So make it a broader scale where it can encompass more things. So don't just pigeonhole yourself in a box.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. You was very, very informative. Very informative. You got your stuff together. You got it together. Thank you for tuning in live with us tonight. I want to thank all of the ones that's going to be watching the replay. Thank you so much, Jessica, for being my guest and sharing your knowledge with us. Very informative. Join us next week. We have a mighty man of God, recording artist Lamont Smith. Have a blessed week and stay safe.